Okay, I hope it's recording. Slide one is the introduction. Between the key points: the 15th and 18th century global trade expansion, the Columbian exchange, mercantilism, and then labor crisis in America, and then the cause effect of human impact. The cause, effect, and human impact. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, global trade reshaped the world. European exploration connecting continents that had been isolated from one another for thousands of years. This period triggered the Columbian Exchange, the widespread movement of plants, animals, people, diseases, and ideas across the Atlantic. But this was not just a story of exploration. It was a story of the economic ambition. European nations adopted an economic theory called mercantilism, which viewed wealth as finite and measures national power by gold and silver. The desire to gain wealth from colonies created massive plantation growth, cash crops like sugar and tobacco. In this presentation, I will explain how mercantilism created the labor crisis, how that crisis led to the slave trade, and how the pursuit of economic power caused suffering for millions in Africa and Americas and the Americas. Wait, did I? Sorry, no. Okay. The Columbian Exchange and mercantilism. Key points: transfer of crops, animals, and diseases. Silver, sugar, tobacco sent to Europe. Europe gained massive wealth. Indonesians populations devastated. You can see in the picture, it showed what North America sent to Europe, and then basically what Europe sent to here. So much of diseases, livestock, grains, plants. You can see right there. Basically, in summary, the Columbian Exchange connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas in a global system of trade. Europeans extracted silver from mines like Potosi and shipped it back to Spain. Sugar and tobacco plantations produced enormous profits. However, diseases traveled as well. Smallpox, measles, which are surprisingly still found today, and influenza devastated Indonesian populations. In some regions, mortality rates reached 80 to 95%. The demographic collapse was to create a massive labor shortage, and that labor shortage would change global history. Part 2, demand for labor. You can see in the corner, sugar and tobacco equals cash crops. Labor intensive production. Plantation system expands and huge workforce are required. Sugar and tobacco were luxury goods in Europe. Demand skyrocketed. Sugar has to be planted, cut by hand, processed quickly, and boiled in mills. Tobacco required careful planting, drying, and curing. These crops were extremely labor intensive. Plantation owners needed thousands of workers to maintain production levels because mercantilism depended on exporting profitable goods. European colonies had to maintain large plantation systems that met a constant demand for cheap, uncontrollable labor. Why not indigenous or indentured labor? Um, Indigenous population collapse. Disease mortality rose from 80 to 95%. European um, indentures, servant limit, and harsh tropical conditions. See the picture of someone with the smallpox. European indigenous labor system collapsed primarily because of disease, smallpox, and other pathogens wiped out entire communities. Europeans also tried Indentured servitude. Poor Europeans agreed to work for several years in exchange for passage to the Americas. However, um, indentured servants were temporarily workers. Many died from disease or harsh conditions. Others demanded land once their contracts ended. Atlantic slave trade, a triangle where everything basically went. Sugar and tobacco and cotton to Europe. Let me move me out of the way. Textiles, rum, and manufacturers to Africa, and slaves to America. The Atlantic slave trade formed a three-part trade network. First, the European ships carried manufactured goods such as guns, textiles, and alcohol to Africa. These goods were exchanged for captives. Second, enslaved Americans were transported across the Atlantic in what became known as the Middle Passage. Third, ships carried sugar, tobacco, cotton, and other raw materials back to Europe. I don't know if this is correct. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the triangle thing is that one thing that they talk about, the like the missing plane thing. I could be wrong though. Hope I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure that's what it was talked about. I don't know. I just came to my head right now. I don't know why it's not skipping. Okay, there we go. The Middle Passage. The Middle Passage was one of the most horrific voyages in history. Enslaved Africans were packed tightly below decks, chained together with barely enough room to move. Conditions were filthy. Disease spread rapidly. Food and water were limited. Abuse was common. Between 10 and 20% of captives died during the journey. Millions survived only to face a lifetime of forced labor. By the 18th century, over 12 million Africans had been forcibly transported across the Atlantic. That's basically what the boat looks like and how they would like stand. It's kind of blurry, but you can kind of see how uncomfortable that was and how tight it was. Impact on Africa. The impact on Africa was devastating. Entire regions lost large portions of their young population, especially men. This created gender imbalances that destroyed families and communities. Disrupted family groups. Some African leaders participated in the trade, which increased warfare and political instability. Economics shifted away from the local production and toward capturing and selling people. The slave trade weakened African societies while strengthening European empires. Oh. And this last slide, conclusion, cause and effect. European nations wanted a favorable balance of trade to gain wealth. They created colonies that extracted raw materials. Those raw materials, especially sugar and tobacco, required enormous labor forces. Diseases destroyed indigenous populations, and indentured servants were intoxicated. To maintain profits, Europeans turned to Atlantic slave trade. The desire for economic power directly caused the suffering of millions in Africa and America. Mercantilism may have strengthened European empire, but it did so by building a system rooted in exploitation and forced labor and human tragedy. The age of exploration reshaped the global economy, but its human cost was catastrophic. And that's all. Have a good day.